Tuesday, the 17th of May. It is May, right? Yep. Just kind of hard to keep track of the days. So looking at a couple of things this morning, I like NEO. I think the move, though, so far has been completed. Well, I shouldn't say completed, because NEO moves $1.56 a day, and the market hasn't opened yet. So it could actually, I have a target of 1851, but it is on my swing list, not on my trade list. So looking at Apple, the market appears that it is going to finally open strong to the upside. The Dow futures at 400, S&P futures at 62.25, NASDAQ futures at 238.25. So it looks like a really good opening.
Oh yeah.
Trying to figure out what to consider. And I'm going to look at the 4-hour chart just to see if we can get a view here of what might be happening. So Apple has some overhead resistance at 150. So that might be a bit of a struggle. Amazon, on a monthly, there's an ATR trailing stop, but that would end up being support on a monthly chart versus resistance. That's why it's blue. So the resistance is at 24.22. That's about a $200 move before it has any real trouble. Looking at Amazon on a daily chart, it is above the 5-day EMA, which is support, at least in the pre-market, because the 5-day is at 2218.04, and Amazon is at 2261. So looking for a strong move on Amazon to the upside today. Coin might be my choice. I'm concerned about the fact that it's below the 5-day EMA, 68.25. It's currently at 66.30. So it looks like it could struggle here, but it moves $15 a day. So I like the fact that it does have a strong movement, and I like the way it looks on the 30-minute chart. This is really the only real resistance other than that 5-day EMA. Looks good on the 30-minute, looks good on the 1 hour. It's been consolidating after that earnings report and that huge gap to the downside. So breaking out of this consolidation could give us a really nice, strong move to the upside. CrowdStrike doesn't really seem to hold a lot of promise for me. Net has a lot of resistance over top. NVIDIA, I like NVIDIA. This is a hammer or a hanging man. Let's see where we are with respect to. All right, so this would be a hammer because we're at the bottom of the move here. So that would be bullish. I like NVIDIA. NVIDIA is already up 4% in the pre-market. Looking at the Qs, looks like we're going to have a nice move up on the Qs. And looking at RIVN, I really expected RIVN to decline because of all the terrible news, but
it's pumping.
You know, they say when a stock rises on bad news, then you know that that's when you want to be in. So 26.53. I'm going to mark this resistance here. It could simply consolidate. So ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute. Yeah, just could continue to move. It could go sideways until it finds some direction. So if we look at this over the course of the last few days, that's what's been happening. It's been in a consolidation pattern. So if I drew this here, so it has to break out one way or the other, and it could be to the downside still. So we just don't know. And I'm going to move this up. If I take the overnight off, it would be a different look. Let me just, I'll start here. Yeah, so this is the challenge here. So, all right, so we're going to get ready for the opening. And looking at NVIDIA, NVIDIA is making a really nice move to the upside. I'm going to set my chart for intraday trading. So I'm going to use the VWAP. I'm going to use the RSI.
Right.
I'm going to use also the MACD. And I'm going to wait, if I don't get a signal on any of these, for the opening range breakout, so that we will know how and when to enter. So again, this was a buy list I put together. So this is of course a couple of things that are not on my trade list. So let me go to my trade list. These are things that we're going to trade relatively often. All right, so we have about 4 minutes before the market opens. And based on the RSI, we don't see any setups here. Since we're trading to the upside, we want to see something that is in the lower tier here, close to being oversold. We don't see that. At least on any, so it looks like Amazon is actually in the overbought area.
Yes.
From a pre-market perspective. Coinbase, CrowdStrike, Net is in the overbought space. So we would look to have it hit resistance here and struggle. NVIDIA is overbought as well. So we would look for it to hit resistance here and struggle. But the thing about this, we do have the MACD moving to the upside. All right, so I'm going to take just a few minutes and I will be right.
Okay. Go grab my tea.
All right, and the market is open.
Yep.
All right, we are just going to cycle through here and see what we've got. What we're looking for here are things that might be oversold that we could buy. No indication of that yet. All right, so RIVN is wow, RIVN's really taking off.
They want this company to survive. I don't.
I tell you what, I'm watching Neo on another screen and don't really know what happened, but for some reason, Neo is on fire here this morning. I know they got an upgrade, so that might be why. So I decided to take I'm trading in several accounts.
They're gonna take the profit on Neo.
Of course. Yes, sir. All right, so we're just gonna keep an eye here. So we won't get our ORB until right around 9:45. Yeah, and apparently I may have sold my Neo too early, but that's okay. I'm happy with taking profit. So NVIDIA is really taking off this morning. So NVIDIA is already up over 5%. So now we may get some opportunities here as things kind of come back to earth. Just taking a look here at what might be available. Everything appears to be oversold. So we could take a position to the downside, but that would not make sense given the fact that the market's so strong to the upside. So we're going to wait and we're going to look for call opportunities versus put opportunities, or long opportunities versus short. And we'll take whatever is offered to us. All right, I like Upstart.
Really? Interesting.
I do. I like it to the upside. I think there's some resistance though at 41.26, which is a problem. But I do like Upstart. Apple, we sort of expected it's going to have trouble. Amazon, so everything's coming back. So we know that in this market, people are selling the top. So that's not surprising that we're getting this reversal this morning. Nothing yet in the oversold area though. SPY is falling. And we've got a climbing VIX. All right, so we'll get in about another 10 minutes, we'll get our opening range placed on our screen. And again, we're going to wait for that. We're not going to rush our decision. We're just cycling through to see if there are opportunities. I'm going to look at another watch list I have on things I have slated for possible opportunities. So I like Scorpio tankers. I'm going to add them to the trade list. They're getting close here to maybe some kind of signal. Nutrient. Arthur Daniels Midland. Add them to the list as well. And again, we're just going to wait. We sort of expected this pullback. And for that reason, in my other account, I took the profit on those. I had that account. What's really interesting is in my margin account, it's based on my swings from last night, I'm up 90%. That's pretty amazing. So I doubled that account almost just from a swing trade from yesterday. So that makes me happy. But again, it's an account where I actually am able to use different option strategies. Rather than a cash account, it's margins, so I can actually sell spreads, which makes things a little bit easier for managing risk. All right, so we are looking at or looking for opportunities. We're going to wait until we get our opening range established. Amazon, of course, we picked that to be a really nice trade to the upside today.
Doing what?
Say again, Morris?
No, I would say it's moving up.
Yeah, Amazon is, I wouldn't be surprised if it moves its full ATR today. All right, so we don't have any buy signals yet. Look at RIVN go. Wow. Again, if a stock rallies off of bad news like that, that's a good sign for the stock. So the market is now making a strong move to the upside. We're going to be patient. We're not going to chase. Everything appears to be oversold. I'm sorry, overbought, not oversold, based on our indicators. While I think that Apple is a good trade, I just think that there's a lot of overhead resistance for Apple. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually look at a different setup here, and I'm going to narrow my choices since we don't have our opening range established yet. I'm going to narrow this list that I have. Let's go to a trade list. I'm going to edit my Tuesday, which is today. And the things that meet the criteria that I'm going to set, I'm going to put in that list for Tuesday. So I don't like the 150 is really close overhead resistance for Apple. Apple has a $6.45 ATR, so I don't want to deal with that resistance. I put ADM in the list. ADM has support here on the 5-day at 86.30. So we're going to keep that one. It's not one that I normally trade, but it seemed to meet an interesting criteria. Amazon really has very little resistance above. So put Amazon in the list for today. Coin has very little resistance on the upside, so it goes in the list. CrowdStrike does not. We're dealing with this algorithmic resistance level here. Net is below the 5-day EMA, which is currently at $60.32, so it doesn't make it. NVIDIA doesn't really have any resistance, so we'll put that one in the list. We're going to keep the Qs, obviously. RIVN 3470 is where it has resistance, so we're going to put RIVN in our list today. And then we have Scorpio Tankers, which doesn't have any resistance above. It has only support because it's been running quite a bit. Tesla, overhead resistance at 800. It's currently at 755. Has a $63 move, so we'll keep Tesla in our list for today as well. And we're going to be looking for opportunities here. Upstart, don't really see any significant overhead resistance on Upstart. And then Wayfair. Wayfair is below the 5-day EMA, which is currently at 55.73, so it does not make the list. So I'm going to edit this, get rid of, well, we'll just go to Tuesday is what we'll do. We're going to work off this list. I'm going to add SPY, add the VIX, and add the Qs. All right, so we're going to go back to our setup. And we're going to see if we can identify an opportunity for an entry. So it's 9:44, so in about 2 or 3 minutes, we should get our opening range put onto our screen. That gets placed there automatically by the script, the ORB script that we have. And we're going to look for opportunities to get into a trade. We're only going to focus on this list. If we have an oversold situation and then we see the MACD flatten and start to turn, then we would enter a trade to the upside. But we don't have that as of yet. Otherwise, we wait for the opening range breakout. So nothing appears to be oversold. If anything, most appear to be overbought. So given that, we could have traded to the downside because things were overbought, seeing like, for example, RIVN, we've got the MACD, which is looking like it's going to flatten out. But we don't want to go against the market, which seems to want to be bullish. And nothing wrong with trading both directions. For example, taking advantage of the volatility. But we're just going to wait. So we're getting close to oversold here on Sting. Scorpio tankers. And Scorpio tankers, the 5-day EMA is at 2783. So that would be support. Tesla and Upstart. All right, so I'm looking for at some point here in the very next few minutes, I'm looking for the opening range to show up on my screen. We're using a 2-minute chart rather than 5-minute. And I may actually switch to a 1-minute chart. So here we go. So we have the opening range that's been established here. So this is the first 15 minutes, the opening high, and here the opening low. So let's take a look and see what we've got. So ADM could be a trade to the downside, but again, we're not going to trade to the downside today. Coin, NVIDIA, Qs, RIVN, everything's right smack in the middle. We've got some downward movement on the SPY. So what we would do here is look at the SPY coming back to test this low and then bounce off of that and continue to the downside. And these are fib levels. But again, not looking to trade to the downside today. We're looking for opportunities to the upside. So ADM is bouncing off of support. And we've got the MACD that is turning for us. So we may look at ADM as our trade. The gap is pretty wide, so we're going to wait and just use our indicators here. So still nothing appears oversold yet. Patience is always critical. This would have been a nice scalp on RIVN here, and we see the MACD turns, but here at this high, so that would have been right around 2750 thereabouts, and we could be out of this trade fairly quickly. So actually, this might not be a bad idea to trade this to the downside and just take advantage of the volatility. But again, going to be patient. And wait. So everything seemed to have reversed, of course, and this would have been a good trade as well off of this low with the MACD crossing to the upside, and it still would be. No signal quite yet on Amazon. All right, so NVIDIA, I'm going to look at NVIDIA for an opportunity here, because this is one that I've traded this morning and took advantage of. I like the fact that it's bouncing off of the ATR trailing stop here. Qs. Again, RIVN. SPY. Sting. This is a little slow moving, which is why I didn't take this. But I think this is good for the length of the day, but I don't want to be in a trade very long if I can help it. Okay, so I'm going to focus, I think, on Upstart here. I like the way this looks, and see if I can find an entry. I'm looking at the $40 call. All right, so I'm in Upstart, and I bought Upstart for a couple of reasons. One, I saw the change here on the MACD. Looks like it's still weak, but I like the fact that we've got this inverted hammer, hammer here, and then a hammer. So I'm going to watch this, and if it breaks the opening range, excuse me, to the upside, I would then buy another contract of Upstart. But for the moment, just going to keep an eye on this. We're in a 1 minute, using a 1 minute chart. So every candle represents 1 minute. And we'll look through some other things here. So I'll look at ADM. That was a nice move to the upside. A miss. Amazon here would be interesting. You've got this hammer here. No signal on coin. No signal on NVIDIA yet. It looks like the move is to the downside on the Qs. And RIVN. Except we don't really have any confirmation here. We looked at a SPY trade to the downside earlier. And that still looks like it's a valid trade. Okay, so we're going to just kind of keep our eye here on Upstart. And we're going to use the ATR trailing stop, 39.98, as our stop loss. So if we get a candle that closes below 39.98, we're going to exit this trade.
Why would you use that point? I'm looking at that ATR trailing stop.
Yeah, so the ATR trailing stop I find to be really strong support, and it's what I use to keep me in a trade.
Right.
So if it falls below, then that would be a signal for me to exit. I'm trying to protect my capital. So right now, of course, my loss is not that great, and I don't want it to be that great. So I would exit and then look for another entry. if it falls below this, because I would anticipate if it falls below this ATR trailing stop, it could continue to the downside, even if it's only for a short duration, and then that would give me another opportunity for an entry. I'm going to go to a 2-minute chart and see if we get a different view. So I'll use the 2-minute actually. We just gotta keep our eye here on this. I'm fairly confident in the trade, but again, I'm just trying to protect my capital. The idea is to minimize my losses and to maximize my gain. So if I can keep my loss on a trade, below, I don't know, 10, 20% on a single trade, or keep my loss on my total account at 1%, 2%, then I'm going to be happy with that. Because when you look at the losses versus the gains, if you're trying to achieve a 10% gain each day and you're only losing 1%, 2% on your total account value, then you're likely to be positive going forward versus blowing up your account. If I sit in this and it goes below and it closes below, and let me just go back to my 1-minute chart, and it somehow closes below this ATR trailing stop, and if I stay in it, then my emotional state may be it's going to turn around, and I end up just watching it decline, and next thing I know, I'm down 40%. So you have to set a stop somewhere, and the question is where you're going to set it. I chose this. It could have very easily have been the opening range low, but that's too much of a loss for me to take at 38.81. So that's why. I mean, where do you set your stop? Do you use stops when you trade, Morris?
Yes.
How do you arrive at your stop loss and what it's going to be?
I actually use a candle. Going back to when the trade start, when the momentum was up. So I probably would have taken a stop at that hammer.
So here?
No, go
or
back
here?
there,
Okay,
the bottom of that wick.
okay. I'm going to mark this. So this is 40.21 is the low here. So 40.21. I'm going to call it bottom. Let's make it white so we can see it. And zoom in a little bit. Okay. So we'll keep an eye here. So again, I would use this because it's quite possible that there are a lot of stops here. And it may be that market makers are going to take out all of these stops, and then the price is going to start to climb up, run up, and then people are going to try to jump back in. So I wouldn't use this. I would use, again, the ATR trailing stop, and I would want it to close below, not just fall below, because they could actually fall below and then climb. So when you use this bottom, would you look for it to close below this bottom, or would you look for it just to fall below this bottom?
I would look for it to close below that bottom.
Okay, all right. So 40.20, it just, what was the low here? So it seems to be respecting it. 40.21.
Mhm.
So this low here was 40.21. So that's twice. That's a double bottom on the 1 minute. So it does seem to be respecting that low. We do have a falling VIX, and it looks like the SPY is moving to the upside. Now on the MACD, we haven't quite flattened out yet. It looked like we were going to, and I got in right here. I got in a little early. Well, what did I get in? Yeah, so back here, looked like we were going to flatten out here, but it didn't. It continued to move to the downside. So it looks like we're going to flatten out here.
Right.
So we've got this consolidation happening right along this price point.
Goes.
All right, so we fell through here low.
Mhm.
Didn't close yet. But we did make a lower low than this one. All right, so now we close below this bottom here. So you would be out here.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to get rid of this.
Like I said.
So I would still be in this trade. And again, I wouldn't exit until I get a close below the 39.98. So my thought is, and of course this doesn't have to be correct, is that market makers know about this and they could take a bunch of stops out here. You had a double bottom here, here, and was it here? Yeah, here. So you could take a bunch of stops out here and still then take the stock to the upside. All right, so we're going to see if this ATR trailing stop will hold. We do have a turn here in the RSI. Would love to see some volume come in here on this candle. We're on a 1 minute chart.
A little bit of volume is trying to come in. They're getting a darker red on that MAC. So that's stimulated.
All right, so you would have been out of this trade. And now would you consider getting back in?
Probably not. Probably not.
All right, so it looks like our ATR trailing stop is going to hold. Yeah, I try to use
The average true range.
the ATR trailing stop and also the algorithmic support and resistance, and obviously any of the trend lines. Again, I think that the challenge here with using this low is that market makers know that that low exists, and they know that people are going to set their stops there, and they're going to try to take those stops out. And when they do, then people get stopped out, and then they buy back in. So you've got a couple of transactions now when staying in might have been better. Obviously, if it fell below this 8-year trailing stop, there would be a bigger loss, but the loss wouldn't be that significant. And we're still not in the clear yet. So we're dealing with a lot of volatility right now. The green line is the VWAP. And we've got, of course, the 5-day EMA, the 8-day EMA, and the 20, which we're using. So these lines, which are on the screen here, are put on the chart by the ORB, which is a study, opening range breakout. And this is the high, the green line, within the first 15 minutes. And you can change the settings. So this is the ORB. You can change the settings here. Begins at 9:30 and then it ends at 9:45. You can make this 11 o'clock. You can make it 10 o'clock. You can make it 9:40, whatever you want. I use 15 minutes because that really gives me a really good indication of what the market's doing. And then, of course, these are fib lines here. So ideally, in using this, what you do is you buy once it breaks above or below, because otherwise you get what I'm experiencing. This is this sort of sideways movement. So looking at SPY, SPY is back above, but now SPY is broken down. So I would buy SPY to the downside here. And it may be that I have to get out of this upstart trade if we close below this ATR trailing stop. And it looks like we are. So we have 2 seconds. So we did. So I'm out. Okay, so that was a failed trade to the upside. And it's probably advisable to wait for the correct signal, which we did not do. I thought based on the candles that we were going to get the move that I wanted to the upside, but it looks like we're not. Looks like the market is going to turn against us. So what we have right now is just a consolidation. So we're just sort of going sideways, and we're going to try to figure out which direction we're going to head. And we don't have a clear indication yet. Looking at the VIX is really just up and down. So we're trading in a range. All right, so we're going to cycle back through. So it looks like we may get an opportunity here on ADM. This would have been the right trade to take. We're looking at taking it here at 86. That would have been a nice trade to the upside. And I still think coin is good. So Amazon is trading down. Coin is giving us another hammer off of this support level. NVIDIA. So it makes sense now to wait for an oversold signal. And then look for an oversold signal and also look at the MACD to see if we get a turn. Or to look for a breakout. But one or the other. NVIDIA is about to hit oversold. And we don't have anything else that meets that criteria.
Gone into looking at more puts than long calls.
Well, so NVIDIA is close to being oversold, and we're going to just keep our eye here for a signal. To see if it does fall further. And if it does fall in the oversold range, then what we would look for is we look to then see the MACD to start to flatten instead of pointing down and diverging. And we look to see the RSI then turn back to the upside. And that will give us a signal to make an entry to the upside on NVIDIA. I'm just going to get myself ready here. So we've made one trade already. This may be 2 or 3 trades we make today. So we want to try to make sure we get this right. So we're going to keep an eye on NVIDIA here at the 5-day EMA to see if in fact it gets rejected, because it is at this fib level as well. So that could signal it's going to continue to the downside. So had we taken a trade to the downside, we could have bought in once it came back and tested this level. And once it declined at 179.81, we could have taken it down to 180.10. So that would have been a nice profit, quick profit. We're looking for NVIDIA to break above the 5-day EMA. We do have a flat MACD. We go to a 2-minute chart and see what it looks like. All right, the 2-minute chart I find performs more like the 5-minute, so we don't really have any clear indication here on the 2-minute. So we're just going to wait. I'm going to take a look at coin again, just because having gotten out of that trade, it seems to be consolidating here. We do have now finally a flat MACD. Well, not coin, I'm sorry, that was Upstart. No clear signal on NVIDIA.
Buy is just sitting where it is.
Yeah, everything seems to be in a consolidation mode.
VIX, buy. Do you ever trade the TQs?
I'm sorry?
The TQs, do you ever trade
The
those?
Qs?
Yeah, the TQQQ.
Yeah, I have them right here.
No, I was saying T, is it Tom QQQ?
Oh, I'm not familiar with that. Let me just pull it up. TQQQ. No, I'm not familiar with that ETF. Wow, it has a pretty high ATR. I mean, it has an ATR of $3.89 a day for a $31 ETF. That's pretty good. So I have to add this to my list. All right, let me get back to my NVIDIA and see where we are. All right, so we do have, looks like a turn here on the MACD, but we need this candle to close. We're on a 2-minute chart. This is going to be my one trade today. I'm going to just go ahead and, based on this indicator, based on what's happening with the RSI, it's at the low of the day. Well, maybe I don't like the way the chart looks on the 1 hour.
Right.
ADM would have been the right trade. Look at that. What a thing of beauty. All right, so we're finally going to break to the upside. All right, so I got my close above the 5-day EMA. I'm going to go ahead and buy into NVIDIA. And this is going to be my one final trade for the day. So I'm risking a little bit more of my capital than usual, rather than only using 20%. Obviously, the NVIDIA trade is quite pricey at $5 for each call. So if this trade doesn't go right, then I will have a loss for the day, but I'm going to sit in this for a little bit longer based on what I'm seeing on my chart. I'm going to use the 2-minute candles. And I'm going to use this fib level as my stop loss, which is at 178.40. All right, so we're getting a decent move here on NVIDIA. Just going to take a look at NEO just really quickly. And K-Web. I know Dave, K-Web is one of our favorites. So K-Web, this has been a nice entry. So K-Web gave us the signal here for an entry. We got oversold, and then we've got the turn on the VWAP, on the MACD.
It would have been a quick trade though.
Not necessarily. We'll look to trade this to the upsides, but it gapped open today, which is a bit of a challenge, and it hit the 50-day EMA, which is at 28.48. So I would expect, again, that based on this oversold signal, it could have been a quick trade. I mean, we would have traded it from here,
Yeah.
say 27.62 up to this level, but I would think I would stay in this trade.
Look at the RSI.
Pardon?
Look at the RSI though.
I do, I see it, but I'm looking at the MACD, I'm looking at the support.
Yeah.
Let's see how we're doing on NVIDIA. So we got a similar thing with RSI on NVIDIA. But I'm looking at support, I'm looking at the MACD. And right now, NVIDIA is still positive. So NVIDIA is hitting the opening range low. So this is going to be resistance, this thick dotted red line here. Not only that, we've got an ATR trailing stop here on the 30-minute chart. Well, actually, that's gone now. That doesn't exist. It overcame that earlier. Let me remove that. What a volatile market today.
The opening,
ADM.
yeah, watching the indices earlier on, it was almost like a head fake. And the fake is still on.
Yeah, so ADM, this is where you look to enter as it comes back and finds support here. But it's getting rejected at 88.58, which is where the 20-day EMA is. But this would be, again, you want to buy off of this decline. So you want to see where it finds support, and then the next move up is where you look to enter on ADM. So using this opening range breakout, it breaks out, it comes back, it tests support, and if it finds support here and starts to move up, then this would be where the entry will be made.
Of course, if it falls through,
If it falls through, you'd wait.
you'd wait, and you're looking at that average true range. I have to admit, I get confused between the light colored one and the purple one.
The purple is resistance, the light color one is support. So you've got support here, and you've got the the VWAP. So the green line is the VWAP, and you have the ATR trailing stop. So that's really good support. So that would be a good place to buy if it comes back here. What's really interesting is 87.59 is where the 50-day EMA is on the daily chart. So that would be, again, another level of support.
I put ADM on my board last night.
Yeah, I like this. I like the opportunity here. So I'm going to look at it for my swing. Just want to take a quick look and see how we're doing on NVIDIA, so I don't blow up my account. All right, so we're positive now on NVIDIA. But I do like ADM. I like this opportunity. And this is, again, using a 2-minute chart where I would look to make an entry. The problem is the spread is so wide on the options.
Going out to May. You're saying May 20th spread 10 cents at the, did I say 10 cents? No, I'm sorry, $1.35, but it's a 10-cent spread. What's the delta?
All right, so let's go back to NVIDIA. Sideways movement. Let's see what happened with Upstart. All right, so we got out of Upstart, and that was probably wise as it continues to struggle. And looking at SPY, so there's a consolidation. You can see it here in the lower half. This is your TQQQ. ADM is consolidating here above the opening range. Breakout. Amazon. Coin. So Coinbase has made a nice move to the upside off of this bottom. But it has a lot of resistance here. So Coinbase, the 67.65 is where the 5-day EMA is. So it could actually run into trouble at that level. I'm expecting that we will break out of this consolidation on NVIDIA. The question is, in which direction? So I'm just going to highlight this. Again, we're looking at a stop loss at 178.40. All right, so looking at SPY, the trade to the downside would have been the right move. The market is still weak. All right, so if I didn't close below here, let's just see what happens with this next candle. I like trusting my charts because that's all I have. If I trade off of emotion, I'm going to make mistakes. At least if I trust my chart, I'm consistent in my decision making. And that's going to be critical, is consistency and discipline. So if this candle closes below here, then I'm going to take the exit and I will be done in this account trading today. So I'm expecting there's going to be resistance here at the bottom of this rectangle because we had this consolidation. So this would be a supply zone. A supply zone simply means this is where the sellers are. So when the stock gets back to this price or back to this area, there are going to be folk who are going to be selling it off. If it climbs through, then this would become a demand zone. And then this is where people will be buying it. But again, that consolidation gives us another area of support and resistance. All right, so this does not look like it's going to work out well. Who knows? Again, I'm looking at that 178.40 as my stop loss. Let's take a look at AVM. Still consolidating along this area. Upstart, consolidation. All right, so it looks like we're holding on. But again, we've got to clear this supply zone before I would be comfortable in this trade. So we just got to get by these buyers. I'm sorry, by these sellers. Once we get by these sellers here, then we should be okay to continue moving to the upside. And then we just want to see this candle get above the VWAP, which is currently at 180.52. We're at 10:34. I'm going to stay on so that we can watch this play out and see what the results are. So again, looking for a close above this zone or beneath this fib level. If it closes beneath this fib level, then I'm out. If it closes above this zone, then we will keep you posted in text messages. But we're looking like we have a downside move, and looks like there's volume coming in. So we're going to wait for the close. There's certainly lots of selling pressure. So people are selling the top. All right, so we're out of this trade here. No matter what happens, we're out. So that's it for today. We're done. We didn't do well. We actually were not able to trade because we did not follow carefully the strategy or the method we laid out. Took a little more risk than necessary. The trade would have been ADM this morning. And of course, after it broke this opening range, now it would be good to take a trade to the upside once it starts moving back to the upside. And this would most likely be good for, let's see, 277 is the move. So $86.35, 86.35 plus 277 would be a target of 89.12. Right, so I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'm going to look at maybe some puts on SPY because that seems to be the direction that we are going. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your afternoon.
Well,
Thanks a lot. Have a great day,
All right.
Richard.
Okay, thanks. Talk to you.